Hey everyone, welcome to VHS Massacre Radio / New York Cine's 400th episode. I'm your host, Tom Seymour.
I'm your other host, Powell.
James Richardson.
And special guest, Dave Leute.
Okay, this week's turd is Against the Dark. It's a 2009 Steven Seagal action film directed by Richard Crudeau.
If there was anyone left, they would have come for us already.
It's just us and them.
Vampire hunters.
Ex-military guys who were trained to kill.
Led by a master swordsman.
We're here to decide who lives and dies.
Will stop at nothing to save the human race.
We're gonna make it, even if it kills us.
No.
Steven Seagal. Against the Dark.
What are you gonna do?
I'm going hunting.
Katana Master Tao leads a special ops squad of ex-military vigilantes on a massacre mission. Their target? Vampires on a post-apocalyptic globe. Tao is the survivor's only hope, as he knows the only cure is execution.
That sounds like a different movie.
Well, just to clarify, I picked this movie out. Tom said, let's watch a Steven Seagal movie. And so I went through his IMDb and I'm looking at the stuff. And Against the Dark, just based off of the synopsis, I was like, that's the movie to go with. It's got Seagal. It's got vampire/zombies. It's from 2009. It's it's pre Steven Seagal being really fat, but it's also post, in shape, the prime of his life, early 90s Seagal. So I thought it was going to be a real nice stinker. And it was, but not in the way that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I we're all fans of Blade here, right? We like Blade.
Yes.
Did you ever think to yourself, man, I don't want a really in shape, great actor to play Blade?
I didn't think he was using a katana. I like that. That wasn't even. Didn't even realize that. I don't even know. But they were using guns.
Yeah, he used the shotgun a considerable amount of the time. Yeah,
It's easier, less energy.
I'm getting tired of everybody cracking on my man because he's fat. We shouldn't be fat shaming people. There's a reason that, we have a lot of dysfunction in this society now is because we keep picking on people about their size and weight. Steven's been, he's been putting in work for years. So, we should give him a little bit of slack. That's all I'm saying.
Understood. But he's also a terrible human being. So there is that.
Isn't he a sheriff now or something?
Have any of you seen that show?
No.
I heard about it. I didn't seen it.
It's hilarious. The only one thing that's funnier than that one is the one where Shaq is a deputy sheriff. No, that one is even funnier.
How can you take law enforcement seriously whenever you have Shaq and Steven Seagal running around with you, solving crimes or doing whatever they're doing?
Okay, one thing I noticed about these later Steven Seagal films, what's incredible about him is that his company Steamroller seems to produce these things, and it's as if he had a checklist, and the checklist is, okay, I want to be in this movie. I only want to act 4 days on set. I don't want to really do any action. I don't really want any lines, but I want to star in it. And I do have to say that they kind of did a fantastic job in that way, because he's in the beginning of the film. There's 20 minutes without him. He pops in for 30 seconds, 20 minutes without him, pops in. And then he's at the end for maybe a good solid 5 or 10 minutes.
Say from IMDb, I pulled that he is in 24 minutes out of a 93-minute movie. 24 minutes screen time.
A short film,
which is actually kind of more impressive, considering what this movie is. And it's it's like, I'm trying to think of somebody comparable, but maybe getting Jean-Claude Van Damme to be in your movie. And if you could get Van Damme to be in your movie for 24 minutes out of a 90-minute movie, I think you've accomplished something. It's just the rest of the movie is so bad. And then also from IMDb, which, sort of solves a lot of riddles in my head, that these vampires seemed kind of like zombies more than vampires, is that Seagal didn't want to be in a zombie movie, and he made them change them to vampires. He hated zombies for whatever reason. And so you get these weird mythos, these creatures that you're not sure exactly what they are. Well, humans that are zombies / vampires.
Yeah, I feel like anytime there's hordes of vampires, it just ends up being a zombie movie anyway. It just feels that way. But and then Keith David pops up, I don't know, like 60 minutes into the film in like what looks to be, I think, they shot this thing in some Eastern European country, and you can tell like that whatever country that was, they were like, yeah, sure, use our airfield. Like, there's all these shots of people running the jets, but damn well they never got into the jets and turned them on. And
the first group of people, when they met the couple, and at first they were like, oh no, who are these people? And then 5 minutes later, they're like best friends, and they're hugging each other, and they're all concerned about each other's lives. And it took me out of it. I was like, what is this garbage?
Yeah. It felt like it's the bulk of the movie is not Seagal. It's these people stuck in this old hospital, and they basically are, I guess, trying to get out. They're going to stay, and they want to get out, and the place is surrounded by vampires, and the military is going to like bomb the whole facility. But that part feels like filler, probably to all of us, because we actually like Seagal action. It just was a really weird combination. Yeah.
You're using the word like very loosely in terms of liking Seagal's action. No, like in the early to mid 90s, he was about as big as action star as you could get. And I definitely liked a lot of his movies. Under Siege 2, Hard to Kill, all that stuff in that line. I want to go back to that hospital though. That signage, that big glowing sign, is the most diabolical looking signage for a hospital I've ever seen. Like, why would anybody go into that place to see any kind of medical care? It's like, we're going to kill you during your surgery or whatever we're doing in here.
I don't remember the sign.
It's just like a big red devil or something on it. And
yeah, it's very strange looking.
Well, also too, like in the beginning, they're trying to set up this kind of apocalyptic world, and they show a few shots of dilapidated buildings, but then they splice in like 5 people running across the street in what looks to be like a pristine city. So that's
Ghostbusters 2, I believe. As soon as I saw the shot, I was like, that is from Ghostbusters. I know that because it's New York City. It's late 80s. Like, I could just easily recognize it. And then I went and looked it up, and it was from Ghostbusters 2. I thought it was from the first one, but it was definitely Ghostbusters 2. They used stock footage. Clip? Yeah, it was the clip. I'm assuming they had some kind of, permission to use it. They would have been sued without,
Yeah.
But the director actually worked on Ghostbusters 2. He was a camera operator. So I don't know if maybe it was leftover footage that he had pulled that he had on hand, or if he knew somebody and was able to get permission to use the shot.
That's amazing you spotted that. Yeah, I didn't think of that. But Ghostbusters 2, again, yes, there was a giant Statue of Liberty or whatever, but it wasn't a post-apocalyptic world. I mean, it was ghosts and shit, James, we haven't heard from you much. Come on, you gotta give us the dirt. What did you think of Seagal? I mean, were you a huge Seagal fan? Like I was a huge Seagal fan.
I really wasn't a huge fan of his. I mean, I liked his first movie, I think, which was Above the Law. I can't remember, when he was like real skinny and in shape. I thought he was kind of terrifying at the time, and he was using a style of martial art that you really didn't see propagated heavily in a lot of films. Everyone else did like kung fu or karate and stuff like that, and he was pure aikido. And most people didn't think Aikido could be kind of dangerous. And, you know, I thought his first couple of movies were okay. Then his whole filmography after the Under Siege films went to crap. Just went to absolute hell. Direct to video, you know, some worse than this movie, you know. And the problem I had with this movie was it didn't seem like they knew what they wanted to do. It's like, let's take I Am Legend. Let's mash this up with, you know, part of like The Walking Dead. It was just kind of a dumpster fire, you know. It's you know, I did have some decent points where, you know, Keith David popped in, he's going to bomb the hospital and stuff like that. You know, I don't know. It's halfway through it, I was like, who the hell picked this movie? You know, then I went and looked it up. It was like they made it for $7 million.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's like where did half that money go? You know.
Well, the gore is really good though. Like a lot of the gore effects are practical, which is a trap with these like late 2000 movies. Is a lot of them were using a lot of heavy digital effects, and they got kind of a little too heavy-handed. This movie was using actual practical effects, so I applaud them for that. Like the gore was there, it wasn't bad. It's just the rest of the movie is kind of a letdown, especially for being a Seagal movie. And
well, it was beautifully lit, at least it looked to me like it was a combination of a real hospital with some built sets, like some of the lower basement sets in the you know, the operating room areas were so heavily dressed and the walls looked set like, but then other places looked like a hospital, you know. And so I mean they had, it looks like they had some pretty good people at least shooting the thing, you know. And I thought, you know, when Seagal would pull out his shotgun and shoot someone in the face and then you'd see his face, there were like these glimmers of old Seagal where I was like, oh yeah, that's why I like Seagal, because he kills people really well. It's really satisfying, even with a shotgun, you know. But it reminded me. I used to love Seagal. I thought he was great, and I loved Jeff Speakman too. I never understood why Jeff Speakman didn't blow up on the level with Seagal, because I was studying Kempo at the time, and The Perfect Weapon and Street Night, and so I don't know. Was anyone else a fan of Jeff Speakman?
I like the first movie he did. I didn't know that other one, Street Night. I've never heard of that one. You know, The Perfect Weapon. I liked it just because they had the soundtrack to what is it? Snap, Fight the Power, or something like that.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
he's just kind of like wailing on people, but it was a okay movie. I wasn't a huge Jeff Speakman fan.
Well, I mean, an oversaturation of also like in that 90s or late 80s, early 90s period of kung fu martial arts films. So I think it's really hard for everybody to like stand out. You know, you got a guy like Seagal who's just, you know, I mean, again, for what he looks like now, back in the day, pretty good looking guy, I think, chiseled.
Thin,
you know, could
thin, but
definitely pull
tall.
off being a badass. Yeah, tall, yeah. So he definitely would stand out with your Jean-Claude Van Damme's, and you know, so it's really hard, I think, for anybody else in that era to really rise to the top, which is kind of crazy today. There's not a whole lot of those type of films being made compared to like, you know, that era.
Yeah, you had some stuff with like Tony Jaa, and then oh God, who's the guy from the Transporter?
Jason Statham.
Statham had a few standalone martial arts films where people are like, yeah, that was, you know, pretty good. And then Ip Man, you know, you got some things, but yeah, it's not what it used to be.
You throw Bourne in there?
You could, I suppose. I mean, there's martial arts in there. You know, it's interesting. I think back to the 90s video era, right? Like you had all these direct-to-video stars, like Billy Blanks. You had Brian Bosworth.
Bosworth.
And then
Boss.
I ain't heard the boss's name. No,
Wait, Billy Blanks, is that the guy that does the Zumba? Or what?
Yeah, but he was like
Tybo. That's right.
He was I think he was in a lot of the kickboxer films, and he was just like Mr. Direct-to-Video for years and years. But yeah, you had stars like that.
He was a legit martial artist too.
Yep.
People always laugh at him because he did not the Zumba, the Tybo stuff.
Yeah.
From Tybo, where Billy Blanks was legit.
Yep.
He'll whoop your ass.
Yep. And then you actually had Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris was still cranking out films direct. I don't know if they were direct to video necessarily, but he did a bunch of Missing Actions and Hitman and Invasion USA, and Chuck Norris is, I think 3-time world champion, like legitimate martial artist. So yeah, I mean, it was like Ken was saying, it was a crowded, very crowded. Then you had Van Damme, you had Seagal, you had, but then you had your standard action heroes, right? You had Stallone and Schwarzenegger and stuff like that,
Then you had your guys from overseas like Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and the stuff that John Woo was making. So it was definitely a crowded playing field, and it was going to be hard to be noticed, especially if you were on the direct video pathway. It was just hard to really stand out. So
you're forgetting the most important one.
Who's that, Dave?
Samurai Cop.
Samurai Cop.
Matt Hannon, the Samurai Cop himself, and Mark Fraser,
yes,
his sidekick. But
I was kind of hoping this movie would be more like that. Like whenever I picked it out, because I was like, again, late age Seagal, vampires, and I was like, it's got to be in a movie I've never heard of. So I was hoping it would fall more in that. It was just a little too polished to ever fit in those categories, though. Again, cinematography was pretty good, lighting was good, gore effects were good. Seagal had some decent moments, though his line delivery was kind of terrible. I text you guys. Somebody asked him, "Who are you?" and he's like, "I'm Tao."
I'm Tao.
It's just like the most flattest delivery of a line.
We're here to decide who lives and dies.
Yeah. And it's gotten progressively worse. He's a senior citizen pretty much at this point, and he's still doing these movies. There was one I watched the first 30 minutes of, General Commander, and he basically is the first maybe half hour of the film. He's sitting in a van, and they're like spying on someone, and it's actually pretty interesting. Like it's about stealing people's organs on the black market and stuff like that. So he's always part of a crew. The rest of the crew do all the action. And he sits in a van and watches the screen. And at some point he comes in when they're going to raid the place. He kicks in the door, like shoots someone in the face, says something, and then like he's gone for like another half hour. So like there's like probably 10 of these movies with the same combination of like I have virtually no lines. Probably in 20 minutes of the movie.
Well, I just, I was going to do a trivia game, but I'm going to just shorten it down to one question for you guys. And this will kind of explain why he's still working today. So, Seagal has been the lead actor in 23 different movies. This is not including cameos or supporting. So, 23 movies. Those box office returns, I want you guys to guess the over-under. I'm going to give you a number, and you guys are either going to guess that it's over the amount or if it's under the amount I'm about to give you. So, Seagal's 23 movies have brought in over $500 million. Is it over or under? $500 million is a lot of money.
I would say over.
Over?
You mean the ones that he's been in, or the ones that
the 23 movies where he's the lead?
Where he's
Where's the lead? Yeah, he's the main star.
I say under.
Under. Mr. Leute.
Just the way you preface the question, it's got to be over.
Over.
That's why they do it, because he makes money.
And that's why, Dave, you and Tom are right. It's over. It is $722 million.
$750 million.
Yeah.
On Seagal movies?
Yeah, Seagal. I was blown away.
Dude, he's like a Marvel character.
More or less. I mean, combined, that is almost close to the returns for a Marvel movie. Under Siege brought in $156 million. That's by far his most successful movie. The sequel brought in $104 million. And then Exit Wounds brought in almost $80 million. So that's like, and Hard to Kill, that was 47. So those are his big earner movies. So yeah, he back in the day used to bring in a ton of money, and I'm guessing that's why he still gets these parts.
I was just thinking about Executive Decision. That was the part they were on the plane where all of a sudden, like, you figure he was going to be a major part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like 15 minutes into it, he gets sucked out the airlock or something, and he's like dead. Like, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. That wasn't on the list because he was considered, I think, a cameo. It wasn't considered a full, even though his name was like on the marquee. That was kind of shocking too. Like, back in the day, early 90s, Seagal is, right there with
Kurt Russell, right?
Kurt Russell, yeah. Right. So you're like, okay, it's going to be a Kurt Russell, Steven Seagal buddy action movie, or maybe Seagal is the villain and we're going to find out. And then 15 minutes in, he's like, boop, gone.
Gone, yeah. And Leguizamo was in that film too, right? That's what happened.
No, but if you ever Google Leguizamo, he does a total riff on working with Steven Seagal during that time on Executive Decision, and he was like, Steven Seagal was crazy, and he goes on and tells all these like really interesting stories about how, he got wound up getting choked out by Judo Gene LaBelle on one of the sets and stuff like, Seagal is crazy.
Yeah, Leguizamo said basically, for no reason, like Seagal basically punched. I mean, he pushed him up against the wall and like elbowed him in the face for like no reason. I know. He lies a lot too. There's this video of him saying that he trained with Bruce Lee and he knew Bruce Lee and they had a lot in common, and they talked about their children, and the age difference makes no sense. Like Seagal's 65 and Bruce Lee is like, I think Bruce Lee died before, I think Seagal would have been a teenager when Bruce Lee died, and so none of this stuff, it's a total lie, but apparently he lies all day long, so it's a little you wonder what's actually true,
Well, he was supposed to be a CIA operative. That was the whole thing when he first came out. There was like all these rumors that he was an actual spy. He worked with the CIA. He did black ops, and a lot of people said that there's no verification of that. And,
yeah. Well, but it's fascinating too, because you wonder if like he's just but he managed to be sheriff of a freaking town. So you wonder, did this guy literally lie his way into everything? Did he lie his way into acting? And I mean, but clearly the guy is in his prime, was a gifted martial artist. So
I've read about Bloodsport, the movie, and it's supposed to have been based off of a real tournament, and it all came from this guy who had done the same thing. He had lied about all the people that he had fought or people he was trained by, and basically bullshitted his way into Hollywood, which is kind of crazy. Like I don't know if this is kind of rampant in the early 80s, late 80s in the MMA world, just because at the time it was sort of foreign to people here in the U.S., but there was like this huge market for it. Audiences wanted it, so you had a lot of guys that were probably very easy for them to con their way and show up to a producer's house and you show a few little moves and you're like, oh my god, this guy's a champ. And back then he could be like, yeah, I was trained in Thailand by 5 monks, and like there's just no way to verify that stuff, but you'd believe him because like he would show you things and you'd be like, oh my god, I've never seen anybody do this kind of stuff.
Do you guys recommend this film?
It'd be tough for me to recommend it to anybody. There's better Seagal movies to watch. So it's like, what's
the number one Seagal movie to watch for you?
I know everybody loves Above the Law, but for me, I think my introduction to him was Hard to Kill. And so that one sticks out. That's the one that I like to start with. If you want to get like even deeper into his catalog, I mean, this isn't really deep, but Exit Wounds is not it's not the worst of his movies. And I also like Fire Below Down Below, because that was actually shot around the area where I grew up in. So in Kentucky, Paducah, in that area.
Wow.
So yeah, you need to stick to the earlier stuff. I don't think besides maybe Machete, just because Machete's kind of crazy, but it's not because of Seagal. There's other things that are.
Yeah. Dave Lute, Seagal film. What Seagal film do people need to watch?
The only ones I can think of are Above the Law and yeah. The other one Ken said. I can't remember the last time I watched them. It was like 20 years ago, probably.
Do you you recommend this film to anyone?
Just the people I don't like. Yeah.
Okay. Great. James Richardson, if you had to recommend one Seagal film to the audience, who do you recommend?
I'm going to go with a controversial choice. I'm going to say Mark for Death.
Ooh, yes.
With the Jamaican drug gang with my man Screwface. So if you haven't seen that, it's a bad movie, but it's bad in a very number of good ways. And if you had to ask me would I recommend this film, yeah, it's the middle of a pandemic. What the hell else are you doing anyway? It's like, it'll make you feel better about your life choices.
It'll make you enjoy Blade way better. I think Hard to Kill, because Hard to Kill is a great revenge film. And he's really good in it. To sneak a second one in, I think we were talking about it before. The height of his whole career really is Under Siege with Tommy Lee Jones. There's a weird knife fight where they fight with knives, which I don't think people fight with knives that way. I mean, James, you're the martial arts guy. Maybe you can say, do you remember the fight scenes where they're actually fighting like swords?
With him and Tommy Lee, they're in the galleyway and they're basically going at one another with two short knives. I haven't been in a knife fight, even though I've had studied. Luckily, I haven't been in a knife fight, but I don't think they last that long.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like these 2-3 minute knife fights are probably over fairly quickly, I would suspect.
You're not escaping without some kind of gash.
Horrible gash. And there's probably a lot less fencing.
Yeah.
The idea of defending a knife with another knife just sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, okay. Well, any final thoughts here?
He's turned into a parody of himself over the years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad because when he first came out, he really was kind of revolutionary. He was someone who actually had martial arts skills. And in the first couple of movies he did, they were tailored for his personality so that he didn't have to have a lot of lines. He didn't have to emote anything other than just like pure fear and menace. So they were perfect for him. Whenever he tried to do anything else after that, it was like, it's comical. He's fighting friggin' vampires now. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Well, his best work is that video of him doing Aikido, and I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's in Russia or whatever, but he's like throwing people around ridiculously looking.
Yeah.
That might be his best work in the last 15 years, to be honest.
He's very slow, and he'll like grab someone by the wrist, and then those people are all Aikido people. They're used to being flipped around, and you grab them by the wrist, and the guy will like head over, I'm
more impressed by them than what he's doing.
Exactly, yeah. So this is the 400th episode of VHS Massacre / New York Cine. Do you guys miss this stuff? I don't know. What do you think? How is this for you guys?
Absolutely. I miss doing the show. I miss walking to Dave's. I was thinking about that the other day. It's kind of a long walk, but I miss making that walk to go over there and talk to you guys, just bullshit for a couple hours.
It's even longer now.
Yeah. I might try it this weekend.
Yeah. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
No, I do miss it. You know, that was like, you know, because most of y'all know at the time I really hated my job. So that was like the one Wednesday or Friday that, you know, I would get out and just come and talk shit with you dudes. So I kind of do miss it, you know.
You know, Dave's apartment always felt very like homey and relaxing, and it's a good time, you know.
Rest in peace, Mama.
Definitely.
Rest in peace, Mama. You know.
Yeah, Mama. Yeah. Well, that's all I got. Anything else?
I miss you guys. That's all. That's all I want to say.
I miss you
miss-
too, James.
Miss you too.
So it's been nice even catching up virtually like this.
Yeah. Oh, okay, thanks for listening. I'm Tom Seymour.
Ken Powell.
James Richardson.
See you.
Check you later.